Hello fellow Heads of Blue and welcome to my channel, and also welcome to Heavy Contrast, a series where I try to paint a single miniature to the highest standard possible using just contrast paints and highlights. And in this episode I'm tackling another Sisters of Battle, in this case a very special one for me because I love painting white, and it's the Order of the Sacred Rose. So let's get cracking. As you can see, we have our model base coated with Corax White. I also did a full coat of the base version of Corax White all over it to ensure I have a uniform coverage all over the armor. And the first step is actually to paint on the leather that will be white. That's the gloves and the corset using Wraithbone. Our base coat of Wraithbone is now done, and I can finally shade all the armor and the leather. For this I'm using, of course, Apothecary White. I will apply the Apothecary White over the leather and the armor. As always with contrast paints, I go section by section. I won't care about the rest. If something goes over into the other parts, just let it be. It will cover all of those later on. Just apply it in a section, watch out for pulling, and just keep going. The Apothecary White is now dry, and I'm going to do a recess shade on the leather using a mix of 2 parts Grief Charger Grey and 1 part Wildwood. The Grief Charger Grey helps cool down the Wildwood a bit and blends better the deep shadow. And now it's time to shade the rest of the armor. For this I'm using Grief Charger Grey. And again, I'm doing a recess shade. Also coat with Grief Charger Grey all the joints in the armor. Our pin wash of Grief Charger Grey is done, and now I'm going to do all the highlights on both the leather and the armor using white. Very simple, just do an edge highlight across all the armor pieces. What I will also do is thin my white into a glaze consistency. Kind of like this. And then do a highlight in all the rounded parts, like that. It's very important how you move your brush with this. So move your brush from the darkest to the lightest point. Our highlight of white is now done and the armor is looking quite wood. And our next step is to paint all the joints with black Templar. So very carefully, extremely carefully, take your black Templar and place it inside of the joints. With that out of the way and drying, I'm going to base coat the inside of his robes. For this I'm using a 1-to-1 mix of Blood Angels Red and First Heroes Red. Again, be extremely careful with this. You don't want to mess up the armor. And just apply a good coat of this over the inside. This was cleaned up with Corax White, of course, before doing this. While the red dries, I'm going to base coat her face using Guilliman Flesh. And now I'm going to clean up all the areas that will be black, that is the outside of the ropes, using Mechanical Standard Grey. While the Mechanical Standard Grey dries, I'm going to base coat with a skeleton horn, the parchment hanging down from her leg. As you can see, I also base coated with Mechanical Standard Grey her hair and the bolter casing. I just forgot to mention it, and now I'm going to apply a layer of Black Templar over all those areas. While the black dries, I'm going to paint with wildwood this cord and the leather pouch. As always, all those areas have been cleaned up using Corax White previously. I'm now going to tackle the black cloth. For this I'm starting with a broad edge highlight using Mechanical Standard Grey. Our edge highlight of Mechanical Standard Grey is done, and I'm going to move into Dunstone. What I will do with Dunstone is exactly the same edge highlight, only thinner. Try to keep the Dunstone inside the thick Mechanical Standard Grey line that we did. Now moving into the next highlight, this is Administrator Grey, and I will just do the same thin edge highlight, only just concentrating it more towards the highlight points. And for a final highlight on the black cloth, I'm going to use Ulthuan Grey and just do small dots of this. In the absolute highest highlights, just small dots where two highlights connect, or in the corners. With the black cloth now done, I'm going to tackle the other black parts, that is the hair and the gun. For this I'm doing an edge highlight using Thunderhawk Blue. Now for the next highlight on those black parts, I'm going to use Fenrisian Grey. I will also do with Fenrisian Grey the joints in the armor. I will just do a very thin. And now for our last step on those black parts, I'm going to use again Ulthuan Grey like the other black parts. And again, I will just do very small dots of this in all the corners on the casing, the rivets, but also here in the joints and on her hair. With all the black on our sister now finished, I'm going to do the red. For this, I'm going to do an edge highlight using Evilson Scarlet. Now I'm going to move for our next highlight into Wild Rider Red. Now for our final highlight on the red, I'm going to use Lugonath Orange. With the red now done, I'm going to move into the leather and I'm going to highlight it using Karak Stone. For a final highlight on those leather parts, I'm going to use Wraithbone. Just a small dot of the wraith bone will do. It's now time to finish painting the parchment that she has hanging from her feet, and for this I'm just going to edge highlight it using palette with flesh. And now I'm just going to do a final highlight using white, just do small dots of white in all the corners. And finally, on the parchment, I'm going to do all the scroll freehand using wildwood. There is no real secret for this, it's just a matter of taking a sharp brush, especially one that is big, and just go for it. Now with the parchment done, it's time to tackle the most fun part for me, that is her face. And first of all, I'm going to provide a bit more shading using Fire Layer Flesh. With this, I will just drop it underneath her nose, into her eye sockets, and inside her mouth. Now moving into the highlights, and first I'm going to use Flayed One Flesh. This is the kind of consistency I'm going for. So quite transparent, but not a glaze. I'm going to pick up nose, top of the cheeks, and now for the final highlight on her face, I'm going to use Palette with Flesh. You can look at the consistency here. So, very thin again. And just going to reinforce the highlight I did in the previous step. Key when painting female faces is subtlety. You don't want harsh lines, or very hard shadows. Everything has to be subtle and soft. With highlights done, now mixing Fleshtir's red into a lot of contrast medium. You can see the thickness I have here, super thin. And with this I'm going to glaze in all the tones on the face. So under her cheeks, a bit of red there, and on her lower lip as well. I ended up doing a couple of layers of less serious red mixed with medium on her lower lip, just to give it a bit more color. Now I'm going to reestablish the highlight on the lip using palette witch flesh again. I will just do a small dot. Like that. Also with palette witch flesh I'm going to paint her eyes and her teeth. Now it's time to paint her eyes, and for this I'm using just black. I will try and do a small dot of this in the middle of her eye. Now I will take pure white and try to do a reflection inside the black that we just did.
I feel like talking my shit. I feel like talking my shit. I feel like talking my shit. Ay, I got a bitch in the rear. Ay, niggas be talking that shit. Ay, but go to a place.
And with her face done, there's only just one type of detail left, and those are all the metals. And I'm going to start with the gold. I'm going to base coat it using Retributor armor. The gold details are this Inquisition symbol and the sword pommel and guard. With the gold base coated, I'm now going to shade it using Gilliman Flesh. I'm now going to paint all the metal details that are not decorative, like the tubes, the grenade, all those kind of details using Iron Hand steel. Now I'm going to paint all the steel details that are decorative trim of the armor using Iron Breaker. With Iron Breaker I will also paint the sword. And now I'm going to shade all the steel using a mix of 1 part Black Templar and 3 parts Contrast Medium. With our wash of Black Templar now dry, it's time to highlight everything metal using Stormhold Silver. This includes all the gold details as well as all the steel. All the metal is now finished and I'm just going to do a lightning effect coming from the node on her sword. For this I'm going to take Tempered God Blue and I'm going to thin this down to a glaze consistency. We are looking at this kind of super thin consistency. And I'm just going to apply this. First of all around the node and the stem that goes down. Then covering part of the area that we want to get that effect. Once that glaze is fully dry, I'm just going to take Tempered God Blue. This time we're doing this kind of consistency, very thin layer, but layer, and I'm just going to paint this over the node and start doing lightning patterns coming out from the sword. Now I'm going to take a bar of blue and I'm going to do another highlight. First of all, I'm going to highlight the node, doing a small dot on the top, highlighting that part, and also doing a highlight towards the node itself. Then I'm going to do a very thin line inside our lightning. Finally, I'm taking pure white and I'm just going to do a very small highlight in the corners of each lightning where two lines intersect, just here near the bottom of the node. And with that last step done, the base painted and the backpack fixed to her back, she is finished. And I'm extremely happy with her. Have a blast. I love painting white. I also loved painting her face and the lighting effect, because those kind of things, special things, at least to me, they make me happy. So I really hope you like this video, and as always guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye. Do you want to decide what I paint in the channel or want direct feedback from me? Then consider Patreon. You have a link to my Patreon in the description below. Patreon helps me do all the cool projects that I want to make and helps me improve the quality of my videos. Don't be afraid, no content will ever be hidden behind a paywall, but it's a nice way to help me and you will get something back for your generosity. As I said guys, thank you very much for watching, and a special thank you to Kevin Sulas, Kid Leonard, Leonard Lindemann, Victor Domen, ILGN, Jonathan Ekelund and Kieran O'Mulfile for being the coolest persons in the planet. Be like these fine folks, join my Patreon and take control.